The loudest silence is the one that follows your truth. It's the moment your enemies realize they never stood a chance. They weren't ready. Not for your voice, not for your presence, not for the way your words cut deeper than any blade. You didn't shout. You didn't beg to be seen. You simply spoke, and the chill that followed wasn't just fear. It was realization. Because in that moment they finally understood. They weren't just going against you, they were wrestling with the universe itself, and the universe never loses. They thought they were mocking you, laughing at your quiet, your calm, your focus, but every time they opened their mouths to speak against you, they summoned a storm they couldn't survive. You didn't fight back with fists. You fought back with alignment, with truth, and it shook their souls. You didn't just rattle their egos, you disturbed their illusions. You spoke, and the air changed. Before we go deeper, like this video, subscribe, and share this message with another chosen one. When you do, it sends a signal to the platform to push this truth further. This isn't just content, this is a transmission. And someone out there is waiting to hear it because they're on the edge of forgetting who they are. Chosen one, this is your reminder. Your voice isn't just noise, it's energy coded in clarity. It's the kind of frequency that wakes the sleeping and terrifies the fake. You wonder why people stare, avoid, or randomly hate. Because deep down they feel it. That quiet authority in you, that unseen weight you carry, it's not ego, it's purpose. It's the universe standing behind you like a shadow too big to ignore. The power of being chosen isn't loud. It doesn't come with grand ceremonies or applause. It comes in whispers, in knowing, in moments of stillness when you realize they're not trying to stop me. They're trying to stop what's moving through me. You weren't sent here to fit in. You were placed here to disrupt, to shift, to expose. And yes, there were times you doubted yourself, times you thought, maybe I'm overthinking, maybe it's all in my head. But let's be clear, your doubt didn't come from lack of power. It came from the weight of carrying something too big for small minds to understand. That's why they tried to make you question it. Because if they can't dim your light, the next best thing is making you look away from it. But here's the truth, you're not alone. You were never alone. Every time they came for you, they were unknowingly signing up for war with the current of the universe. They were fighting gravity and wondering why they kept falling. They were trying to dam a river with pebbles. It was never going to work. And that's why your silence hits harder than their noise. Your calm shakes their foundations. Your presence exposes their weakness. What you spoke wasn't just truth. It was a reminder of what they tried to bury. And when you said it, when you finally let it out, the room went cold. Not because of fear, but because they felt something real for the first time. And real is rare. Real is dangerous. So keep speaking, chosen one. Let them feel the frost of your truth. Let them lose sleep over the echo of your voice. Because the moment you open your mouth, you're not just speaking for yourself. You're releasing something the world can't unhear. And that sound, that vibration, that's what sends chills down their spines. So, if you felt that sudden silence after you speak, when eyes shift, hearts race and masks fall, then this message is yours. This isn't just something you watch, it's something your spirit recognizes. Drop a 77 in the comments if you've ever felt your words shake the room without even trying. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. And believe this, if you're truly chosen, you won't be able to look away. Because what's coming next will speak directly to the fire you've been trying to hide. And now, let's get into it, piece by piece. If you're real, you'll feel this all the way through. Let's begin. Number 1. They thought you were random, but you were the universe's checkmate. They thought they could outsmart fate until they realized you were the move the universe had been saving. They thought you just showed up, that your presence was some random glitch in their perfectly calculated game. But you were the final move, the quiet, precise, surgical strike they never saw coming. While they were running their mouths, throwing dirt on your name, calling you lost, silent, weak, you were being strategically placed by the very current of the universe they pretended to laugh at. The joke, it's on them. Because when you spoke, just once, with clarity, with truth, it shook them. Not because you were loud, but because you were right. And right cuts deeper than rage ever could. You were the piece the system couldn't account for. The whisper in a room full of screams. The pause that made everyone nervous. You're not here by mistake. You're not just getting by. You're not lucky. You're aligned. And that kind of alignment, it makes the snakes scatter. It sends ripples through structures built on lies. That's why they twitch when you talk. That's why they flinch when you stand tall. It's not confidence that bothers them. It's clarity. It's knowing. It's the silent pressure of someone who doesn't have to beg to be powerful. And still, you doubted it. Let's call it out. You sat there in rooms feeling unseen, wondering if you were doing something wrong. You let their gossip get into your mind. You mistook resistance for rejection. But chosen one, resistance is proof you're the threat. You thought you were isolated because you weren't worthy, but isolation is a sign of preparation. The universe separates its strongest warriors before the shift. You were being sharpened while they were being distracted. You were listening while they were laughing. And now they're shaking because the quiet one remembered who they are. Let this settle into your bones. You were placed, not dropped, not forgotten, placed like a key in a lock, like thunder waiting behind the clouds. The universe doesn't gamble. It doesn't roll dice on your life. Every delay, every betrayal, every time they walked away or closed the door, it was placement. They didn't discard you. They delivered you. You were never left behind. You were hidden in plain sight until the time was right. And when you opened your mouth, chosen one, it wasn't just a voice they heard. It was the sound of their delusion breaking. They weren't just messing with you. They were clashing against the algorithm of existence itself. They were playing checkers on a cosmic chessboard. You are the move they forgot to calculate, the one they didn't see coming. You weren't loud because you didn't need to be. Your stillness was the setup. Your silence was the strategy. And now that you've spoken, the energy shifted. And they know. They feel it. They don't respect you because of what you do. They fear you because of what you carry. So let me ask you, why did you ever doubt? Why did you ever sit in dark rooms wondering if you were the problem when the truth is, you were the solution that made them uncomfortable? You were placed in a broken system to expose the cracks. You were positioned in fake circles to show what real looks like. And when you finally said it, when you finally let your truth cut through the room like a blade through fog, they felt it. That cold rush wasn't fear of you. It was fear of everything you expose just by existing. The universe does not make mistakes. And if you think your suffering was wasted, think again. Every breakdown, every betrayal, every night you cried alone, calculated, designed to shake you awake. You weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to disrupt. You were sent not to adapt to the system, but to call it out. Your voice wasn't meant for echo chambers. It was built to reverberate through silence and make people uncomfortable in their lies. That's why it sent chills down their spines. You reminded them of a truth they've been running from. You are not small. You are not weak. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, with everything you need to break what needs to be broken and build what must be built. Don't you dare dim down again. Don't you dare shrink just because your brightness exposes their shadows. They hate your light because they sold theirs a long time ago. And yes, they will talk, they will smear, they will twist your words, but deep down, every one of them remembers how it felt when you spoke. That stillness, that weight, that chill. It wasn't what you said, it was what followed. The universe confirmed it, and they know. They can't stop what's already been set in motion. You were placed, positioned, timed, and now activated. This is your awakening, chosen one. Not the fluffy kind, the feral, grounded kind. The kind that roars through your chest when you realize they never had the power. They only had distraction, smoke, noise. But your voice? It clears the room, your presence. It exposes the counterfeit. Stop doubting. Stop questioning your path just because it's lonely. Alignment is often a solitary lane, and isolation, that's just the universe making room for elevation. You weren't overlooked, you were preserved. Like fire kept in a box until the world turned cold. And now that the frost has set in, you are the heat they never thought they'd need. So speak again, speak louder, speak without shame. You're not just talking, you're shaking the damn table. And if they can't handle the sound of truth coming from your lips, then let them cover their ears. This world has enough noise. What it needs is your frequency. Let them shiver, let them remember, let every word you say echo like footsteps in their guilt. Because what you carry isn't just truth, it's alignment with the force that designed the whole game. And in this game, you were never the pawn, you were the checkmate. Number 2, you spoke what they buried, and now they can't unhear it. Nothing haunts a liar more than the one who speaks their truth with no fear of consequence. They're not scared of your voice. They're scared of what your voice unlocked, scared of what it revealed, what it dragged into the light. You said something you weren't supposed to know, something they thought they had hidden so deep, even they forgot it was real. But you said it, calm, unshaken, no theatrics, just truth, pure and sharp. And that moment, that was the beginning of the unraveling. They'll call you paranoid, too intense, too deep, but deep is exactly what they fear. They built their entire lives on shallow performances, empty words, rehearsed smiles. Your depth in a world of surfaces. You see through masks like they're made of glass. And when you spoke, chosen one, it wasn't guesswork. It was exposure. You became the mirror they never wanted to face, and that's why they tremble when you talk. Let's be brutally honest. How could you know what you know? You weren't in the room. You didn't hear the conversations, but you felt it. You saw it before it happened. You called it out before they were ready. And that's why they hate you. Not because you lied, but because you told the truth too early, too clearly, too boldly. You read energy like a book they thought was written in a language you'd never learn. And still, you doubted. You questioned yourself. You asked, am I just overthinking? Am I making this up? Let me stop you right there. No, you're not. You're chosen. That knowing you carry, it's not paranoia, it's alignment. It's what happens when the universe wires you differently, when it hands you antennae to feel storms before the clouds even form. You're not dramatic, you're tuned in, and they know it. That's why they try to gaslight you, not because you're wrong, but because you're dangerously accurate. You ever wonder why people get uncomfortable when you're quiet in the room? It's not your silence. They're afraid of what you're not saying. They can feel that you already know, that you've seen behind the curtain. that you've read between the lines of their performance. You're the glitch in their matrix, and your presence forces them to confront the truth they've spent years avoiding. You didn't just shake them, you shattered the illusion. You said something casual, something light, and they panicked. Why? Because you didn't just hit close to home. You walked right through the front door. You knew what they were hiding. The pain, the lies, the manipulation, the secrets, and you didn't need proof. Your spirit had already decoded it. Your intuition had already put the pieces together. And when you dropped that truth, they realized you know more than you should. And if you know this, what else do you know? They're afraid of that answer. You think people walk away because they're bored? No, they run because you're too accurate. You threaten the reality they've built for themselves. You speak in frequencies that disturb their fantasy, and they'd rather leave than stay in a room where their shadows are fully visible. They don't want healing, they want comfort, and you are not comfort. You're a wake-up call. Still, you questioned yourself. You wondered, why does everyone back off when I speak up? Chosen one, because your truth is heavy, because your words pierce illusions like nails through silence. You say the one sentence that destroys the whole performance. You drop the one line that cracks the foundation of their lies. They know they can't undo what you've revealed, and so they label you the problem. They demonize the one who exposes the sickness, not the sickness itself. Let's talk straight. Your truth terrifies them because it's not just truth. It's truth backed by something bigger. When you speak, the universe backs you. That's why it lands so hard. That's why it lingers in the room like a cold wind no one saw coming. You speak, and it echoes. You speak, and the lies start to rot. You speak, and the illusions bleed. You didn't learn this truth from a book. You remembered it. That's what makes it unstoppable. They can't fact-check what lives in your bones. They can't disprove what you see in dreams, in silence, in sudden understanding. You are the truth they hoped would never walk into their lives. You are the consequence. So stop watering it down. Stop apologizing for being accurate. Stop questioning if you went too far. If they shook, it's because you struck a nerve. If they ran, it's because they weren't built to sit in the energy you carry. You didn't hurt them. You unmasked them. There's a difference. Let me say it louder. You were not wrong. You were just early. They weren't ready to be seen. They weren't ready to be known by someone they didn't control. And now that you've spoken, they know they can't hide. That's why they act weird around you. That's why they go quiet when you enter the room. They're afraid of what else you see, what else you might say. You are a living threat to their lie. And the wildest part, you haven't even said half of what you could. You've been holding back, protecting feelings, trying not to make it worse. But hear this, truth withheld still speaks. Your energy says what your lips don't, and they feel it. That pressure in their chest when you're around, that's their deception cracking under the weight of your presence. So I'll ask you, what are you still doubting? Why are you still wondering if you're imagining it? Chosen one, they react like that for a reason. Your words don't just speak, they shift reality. You don't just observe, you see what others pretend not to. That's a gift, that's power, that's what terrifies them. And let me be even clearer. The more you speak your truth, the more the universe aligns to amplify it. That's why doors open after you speak. Why strange coincidences follow your boldest moments. You are walking proof that energy recognizes energy, that truth opens locked gates, that your voice carries activation. So don't stop now, don't shrink because they couldn't handle it. You were never meant to be soft for the sake of their comfort. You were meant to reveal, to awaken, to disturb the stagnant. Let your truth echo. Let it burn down what needs to fall. Let it send chills, not for cruelty, but for clarity. Because some people don't change until truth makes them shiver. And you were born to be that cold wind, that sudden shift in temperature, that moment of silence after everything fake has been exposed. So speak again, speak louder, speak freer, because the truth you carry was never meant to be caged. It was meant to crack the sky. Number 3. The mask slipped and you saw what they never wanted to be seen. They wore the mask so long they forgot their real face, but the moment your eyes locked with their truth, they remembered, fearfully, that they were never hidden. Chosen one, let's stop pretending they fooled you. Let's stop acting like you didn't see it coming. That smile, that charm, that surface-level kindness, you saw right through it. You always did. You just kept giving them chances to show something real. You kept hoping there was more behind the mask than manipulation. But let's call it what it is. They weren't being misunderstood. They were playing a role. And now, the curtain's down. The mask is off. And what's left can't hide. You didn't catch them slipping by accident. Your awareness didn't just randomly land on their lies. It was your discernment, that sharp, divine radar wired into your spirit. You weren't snooping, you weren't paranoid, you were paying attention in a world that thrives on distraction, and they hate you for that, not because you exposed them to the world, but because you exposed them to themselves. You made them look in the mirror without the filter. And they couldn't handle the reflection. Let's be brutally honest. They only looked strong when you didn't know who they really were. Their power was in the illusion. But when the illusion shattered, so did their control. You didn't have to scream. You didn't have to attack. You just looked clearly. You stood still while they panicked. You asked questions they couldn't answer. You existed in truth, and that alone tore the mask off their face like fire melting wax. And yet, you doubted. You questioned yourself. You asked, am I being too harsh? Am I misreading this? No, you weren't. You were just hoping they'd redeem themselves. You wanted to be wrong. You wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, what you saw was just a crack, not the whole damn mask slipping off. But chosen one, your discernment isn't just sharp, it's surgical. When you see the lie, there's no unseeing it. You don't just catch energy, you decode it. Stop gaslighting yourself. You didn't imagine their shade. You didn't invent the red flags. You just saw what others refused to. That's the burden of being chosen. You see beneath the performance. While others clap for the act, you're listening to the silence between the lines. That's what they fear. That's why they change around you. They're not evolving, they're adapting, trying to stay hidden. But the mask is already off, and you can't unknow the truth. Ever wonder why they suddenly distance themselves, why their tone shifts, why they throw passive shots, avoid eye contact, or accuse you of changing? Because when a lie knows it's been seen, it has two options: evolve or escape. Most choose escape. Not because they don't care, but because your truth demands a kind of self-awareness they're not ready to face. You didn't just see them. You unveiled them. You stood in front of their disguise and said, "This doesn't fit anymore." You want to know how powerful you are. Look at how people react when they realize you see through them. Look at how nervous their energy becomes, how suddenly you're too intense, too sensitive, or too much. No, you're just clear, and your clarity burns. You're not the villain in their story. You're the spotlight, and spotlights don't lie. They just reveal. But let me ask you, chosen one, how many more times are you going to act like you didn't see what you saw? How long will you keep explaining away what your spirit already confirmed? Every time you doubt your intuition, you betray the very gift that makes you chosen. that gut feeling, that tension in your chest, that moment when their words don't match their energy, that's your knowing. And when you ignore it, you dull your own power. You weren't given this discernment just to survive. You were given it to expose, to protect, to disrupt. You're not here to play along. You're here to pull masks off, not with rage, but with truth, with presence, with the kind of calm that makes liars sweat. You don't have to prove anything. Your existence is the evidence. So stop walking around like you're blind when you were built to see through worlds. Stop shrinking your power so the masked feel safe. You were never meant to comfort illusions. You were meant to crack them wide open. That's what scares them. That's why they whisper. That's why they lie. Because even they know, once you've seen the truth in someone, their mask can never fit again. And the most dangerous part for them, you haven't even spoken all of it. You're still holding back, still trying to be kind, still protecting the very ones who would have torn you apart if the roles were reversed. But listen closely. They weren't protecting you. They were performing. And now that the performance is over, you owe no loyalty to the lie. You owe truth to yourself. So when they flinch, let them. When they run, let them. When they attack, understand. It's not you they're mad at. It's the reflection you gave them. You didn't break them. You just stopped pretending. And in doing so, you forced them to face the emptiness behind their mask. Keep standing, keep seeing, keep speaking, because once a chosen one sees the truth, there's no turning back, and the world is better for it. Number 4, they fear what you feel because your intuition is a blade that never misses. They lied with confidence, but your silence screamed louder than their words and cut deeper. Chosen one, let's not sugarcoat this. Your intuition is a threat, not a soft gift, not some nice feeling or lucky guess. It's a weapon, precise, lethal, and fully awakened. You walk into a room and feel what's off before a single word is said. You catch hesitation in their voice, the flicker in their eyes, the shift in their posture, and right then, you know. Not because they told you, not because you had proof, but because your very spirit refuses to be deceived. That's your power, that's your curse, and that's what they fear most. They fear the fact that you don't need evidence, you don't need a confession, you don't need to see the knife. They tremble because you already know who's holding it behind their back, and when you say nothing, they feel everything. That's the part that shakes them, your stillness, your calm. Because when you go quiet, it's not retreat, it's recalibration, it's your intuition sharpening, and deep down they know lies die in your presence. They can fool a crowd, fool their friends, fool their own mind, but they can't fool you, because you carry emotional intelligence like armor, because you've been through fire and came out with spiritual vision. You feel people's intentions before they form sentences. You hear the truth they don't want to say. You see the story behind their words, the weight behind their smile, the fear behind their confidence. That's not just awareness, it's spiritual warfare. You were wired to detect deception, not just to protect yourself, but to protect those still sleeping. And still, you doubted it. You second-guessed your gut. You tried to rationalize what your spirit already decoded. You let people tell you that you were too sensitive, too emotional, too suspicious. But chosen one, let me remind you, those words are distractions from people who fear being seen. They don't want to believe you're right, because if you are, then everything they've built is at risk of crumbling, and so they try to mute your knowing with guilt, gaslight you with fake logic, and distance themselves from your presence. But even in their absence, your intuition lingers, because truth follows you. because light exposes, even from a distance. Ever wonder why people hesitate around you, why their voice stumbles mid-sentence, why they avoid eye contact or talk too much or deflect your simplest questions? That's not awkwardness. That's guilt trying to hide. That's lies trying to escape your radar. That's deception shaking in the presence of discernment. You don't just listen, you absorb. You don't just observe, you read. And what you read, they can't rewrite. That's your power. Let me put it like this. Your intuition is a metal detector in a field full of landmines. Everyone else walks around blindly, stepping where they're told, thinking the danger's behind them. But you sense where the danger is buried. You step around it, and when you speak, you expose it. That's why they hate your insight. It's not just correct, it's disruptive. It makes them accountable. It makes them feel seen. And for those hiding behind performance, being seen is the most terrifying thing of all. And here's the kicker. Most of the time, you haven't even said everything you feel. You've only hinted, only nudged, and even that shakes them to the core. Because if you're already that accurate with what you share, how much more do you know that you're keeping to yourself? That's what keeps them up at night. That's what turns passive-aggressive. That's what shifts their energy from fake-friendly to cold avoidance. They can't stand that you see them without needing to be told who they are. But listen carefully. This is not the time to water down your gift. This is not the time to hide your knowing just to make the masked feel safe. You weren't given this insight to fit in. You were given it to cut through the illusions, the noise, the smoke. Every time you ignore your intuition to keep the peace, you betray your own power. And guess what? The same people you protect with your silence are the first to attack you when your silence ends. So no, you're not crazy. No, you're not overthinking. You're just tapped in. You were born with eyes that see in the dark, with instincts that shout louder than facts, with a radar that detects danger before it walks through the door. That's not weakness. It's your assignment. And it's the reason people get uncomfortable in your presence, even when you haven't said a word. It's not you. They feel exposed. Because when you walk in, their lies lose cover. Stop doubting. Stop apologizing for reading people too well. You're not being difficult, you're being divinely aware. Your intuition isn't just survival, it's precision. It's your greatest tool. And the more you honor it, the sharper it gets. You are the last stop for deceit. The final mirror before consequences catch up. That's why truth is drawn to you, and why lies try to run. So sharpen your weapon, speak when it's time, and never again doubt the power of what you feel. Because when the chosen one's intuition speaks, even the darkness listens. Number 5, you were never just one person. You are a global shift in motion. When the system shakes, it won't be from earthquakes. It'll be from chosen ones, finally standing in their truth. Chosen one, hear this loud and clear. This was never just about you. This battle, this isolation, this deep pain you've carried, it was never only personal. It felt personal because the attacks were direct. The betrayal, the rejection, the silence from people you gave everything to, it broke your heart in ways you couldn't explain. But underneath it all, something bigger was happening, something cosmic. Because when the universe moves, it doesn't just shake one life, it shifts everything. And you are one of the anchors for that shift. You are not a fluke, not some lost soul stumbling into knowledge. You're a piece of a global disruption, a spiritual uprising, a movement of voices that refuse to stay silent while deception pretends to rule. And make no mistake, this system knows exactly who you are. That's why it came for you early. That's why it tried to break you before you ever stood up. Because it's terrified of what happens when people like you stop doubting and start speaking. You're not alone. You were never alone. You are one of many, scattered across continents, cultures and backgrounds, but all lit by the same internal fire. And when one chosen one wakes up, the entire grid lights up stronger. That's what they don't want you to realize. That's why they isolate you. That's why they try to shame your voice, because your awakening activates others. And when enough of you rise, the illusions collapse. So no, this isn't about some petty drama or broken friendship or weird energy at your job. That's just where the front lines showed up. But the war, it's way bigger. It's about truth versus deception, authenticity versus illusion, expansion versus control. You're not just defending yourself, you're dismantling systems built on silence. And the moment you stop internalizing the attacks and start recognizing the pattern, you become dangerous, not because you're violent, but because you are clear, and clarity destroys control. And yet, you doubted. You kept asking, why me? Why is this so hard? Why does it feel like I'm carrying the weight of something I can't name? Because you are. You're holding the vibration of truth in a world designed to reward fake. And that weight is not weakness, it's confirmation. If the pressure's heavy, it's because the mission is real. The more they try to stop you, the more you should realize you're hitting something vital. They don't chase ghosts. They don't waste energy on the irrelevant. So if the battle found you, it's because your voice threatens what they built. Chosen one, you're not just speaking for yourself. You're speaking for the silent, for the ones who are still asleep, for the ones who gave up, for the ones buried under systems that told them to stay small, stay quiet, stay obedient. Every time you open your mouth and let the truth fly, you're shifting timelines. You're triggering breakthroughs in people you'll never meet. Your pain is not just pain, it's code. It's a frequency that other chosen ones recognize and resonate with. That's why they're drawn to you. That's why your words echo long after you speak them. You are not just human. You are an alarm clock in a world full of sleepers. And let's be real, this movement isn't polite, it's raw, it's messy, it shakes things, it destroys before it rebuilds. You weren't made to play nice with dysfunction. You were designed to call it out, burn it down, and plant something real in its place. That's why they don't like you. That's why they label you too intense, too much, or too angry. Because your existence exposes their comfort zones. You are not the storm, they are the house built on sand. And when the wind of your truth comes through, it reveals what never had foundation to begin with. Still want to pretend this is personal? Still want to cry over people who were only placed in your life to test the strength of your intuition? Still want to beg for love from systems that were built to drain your energy? Or are you ready to see yourself clearly as a living disruption to everything false, toxic, or broken? This is not about ego. This is about impact. The moment you stop fighting for acceptance and start fighting from alignment, the game changes. You stop reacting. You start reprogramming. You were not chosen to coast through life. You were chosen to fracture illusions, to walk into rooms and shift the vibration without saying a word, to speak when others tremble, to carry insight where others carry excuses. That's your identity, and the sooner you embrace it, the faster the system collapses under its own lies. This is not about you being special. This is about you being necessary, a piece of the puzzle, a node in the network. You may feel alone, but you're part of a wave. And when that wave hits critical mass, everything fake will fall. So rise, chosen one. not with arrogance, but with certainty, not with noise, but with clarity. The role you play in this awakening is bigger than your heartbreak, your losses, your mistakes. It's about purpose. It's about power. It's about remembering who you are before the world told you to forget. And now that you remember, the system has every reason to be afraid. Number 6. The clock ran out, and now the fire comes for everything built on lies. They thought time was on their side until the truth arrived and started counting backwards. Chosen one, you've been quiet for too long. You've watched them lie, manipulate, twist stories, and hide behind fake smiles while playing innocent in public. You stood back with your mouth closed, holding the truth like a blade you refused to swing. But time never stops, and it's been ticking louder and louder, and now it's over. Their time is up. They had their season, a season where deception ruled the stage, where performance passed for character and manipulation looked like leadership. They thought their masks would last forever. They believed the spotlight would stay fixed on their illusion. But what they didn't account for was the reckoning. The truth doesn't need permission to rise. It arrives like fire, and fire doesn't negotiate. That fire, that's you. And now they feel it, that unease they can't shake, that fear when you walk into the room, that tension in their chest when your name is mentioned. It's not guilt, it's exposure. They feel the walls closing in, the lies no longer working, the charm no longer disarming, their grip slipping, because you, chosen one, were the final signal. You were the last warning, and they didn't listen. You didn't have to yell. You didn't need revenge. You didn't get loud or messy. You aligned. You stepped into your knowing. You spoke what they hoped would stay buried. You carried the truth long enough that it started speaking through your presence alone. And now they're terrified, not of what you might do, but of what's already happening around them. The fallout of what they've built on deception is finally catching up. They thought there would always be time. Time to clean up, time to manipulate the narrative, time to spin another lie. But the universe doesn't run on their clock. It runs on alignment. And right now, the scales are shifting. The light is rising. And everything not rooted in truth, it's getting torched. Quietly, ruthlessly, unapologetically. Still, you doubted this would happen. You questioned if karma would ever come. You wondered if people would ever see what you saw. You asked, will they ever be held accountable for what they did to me? Yes. Not because you wished it, not because you demanded it, but because it was written into the very rhythm of the universe. Deception is always temporary. Truth is eternal. And you, chosen one, you are a vessel for that eternal force. Let me be brutally honest. They're not scared of consequences. They're scared of being seen. That's the real fear. And when you stopped playing dumb, when you stepped into your clarity, when you let their mask fall and didn't pick it back up, they panicked. Because now the world's catching up. People are asking questions, stories aren't lining up, patterns are breaking, and exposure is crawling up their spine like a chill they can't shake. That's what time does. It protects truth and rots lies, slowly, quietly, then suddenly. So when you start seeing them fall off, don't feel guilty. When things start going wrong for them, when their circle shrinks, when their reputation begins to crack, don't reach back to rescue them. This is the cost of what they built. This is the fire they thought they could outrun. But fire doesn't care about charisma. Fire doesn't care about influence. Fire cares about what's real. And if it's fake, it burns. Period. You were never sent to destroy them. You were sent to warn them. Your presence, your discernment, your intuition, those were all sirens. You gave them chances. You stayed silent longer than you should have. You extended grace they didn't deserve. But now, that window has closed. The time for games is done. The truth has entered the building, and it's hungry. Still think this was about you? Still think your heartbreak was just a lesson? No. This was a cosmic turning point. You were placed in their path, not just for your growth, but for their exposure. And now that the mirror is up, they can't look away. The denial doesn't work anymore. Their mask is cracked. Their voice shakes when they lie. Their energy crumbles in your presence. That's not coincidence. It's consequence. And here's the hard truth. You were never meant to clean up their collapse. Stop trying to heal what the universe is tearing down. Stop showing up with water when the fire is meant to burn. Sometimes justice doesn't look like a courtroom. It looks like someone watching their empire fall while the one they underestimated stands unbothered in the ashes. You are not their punishment. You are their proof. Proof that truth always wins. Proof that time always tells. Proof that what they did in the dark will always come to light, especially when a chosen one walks in. So stand tall, chosen one. Watch with clear eyes. You don't need vengeance. You don't need to force anything. The clock already ran out. The storm is already here. And everything they built on lies is about to burn. Number 7. The clock isn't just ticking, it's screaming, and they know they're out of time. They thought they had forever until they heard the sound of truth getting closer second by second. Chosen one, this isn't just a warning, it's a declaration. The clock is ticking, louder than ever, louder than their excuses, their denial, their fake apologies, louder than their distractions, and they hear it. In the quiet, in their dreams, in the moments they try to escape their own reflection. The countdown has begun, and it's not waiting for them to catch up. This is the part where time stops negotiating. This is judgment season. You feel it too, don't you? That shift in the air, that weight pressing against your chest, that eerie sense that something is building, because it is. The universe has been patient. You've been patient. But truth doesn't wait forever. And now that the final hour has begun, there's no more room for delay. No more hiding behind charisma. No more performing sincerity. It's time, and those who've played with darkness are about to face the light. Let's make one thing clear. This clock isn't ticking because of rage. It's ticking because of order, universal order, the kind that cannot be bought, manipulated, or escaped. There's no bribing this justice, no talking your way out of what's coming. You feel it tightening around them, don't you? That invisible grip. That pressure building behind their smile, that deep, unsettling fear they can't name out loud, but they feel it in their bones. That's not anxiety. That's the universe gathering its balance. Still think they got away with it? Still questioning if truth will ever rise? Chosen one, hear this. It already is. Every delay, every lie, every time they twisted your truth to save their own skin, it's all being counted. Not just by you, not just by the people watching, but by the very rhythm of existence. The universe keeps score in silence, and when it moves, it doesn't miss. They don't fear consequences, they fear the inevitable, and it's coming fast. Ever wonder why they look uneasy lately? Why their confidence feels hollow? Why they're suddenly reaching out to make things right or explain themselves? That's not growth. It's panic. It's the sound of the final seconds slipping away. Because once the clock strikes, it's too late to fix what was never real. They're not changing. they're scrambling. And the truth? The truth is already on its way to the surface, cracking through every lie they built their identity on. You've felt crazy, haven't you? Gaslit, questioned, torn between what your soul knows and what they wanted you to believe. You second-guessed yourself. You wondered, was it really that deep? Am I being too harsh? No, you were being merciful, but mercy doesn't stop time. And your silence, your grace, it didn't erase the clock. It just gave them more of what they were already wasting, time they never deserved. And now, the countdown has become a roar. They hear it in their sleep, in their thoughts, in the spaces they can't escape from. The clock isn't ticking in seconds, it's ticking in consequences. Every beat is a warning, every moment is a mirror. They feel the walls closing in, the masks growing heavier, the illusion cracking under its own weight. And the worst part for them? You're still standing, unbothered, unshaken, watching, not with bitterness, but with clarity, because you already know how this ends. Not with a dramatic confrontation, not with screaming or chaos, but with exposure so precise, so undeniable that even they won't be able to lie to themselves anymore. That's what true justice looks like. It doesn't destroy, it reveals. And when truth is revealed, everything that was built on lies begins to rot in real time. They feel it, that rot, that decay, that slow realization that everything they built on deceit, manipulation, charm is slipping, and now the people they fooled, they're waking up. The rooms they used to control, growing cold, the attention they thrived on, drying up, and your voice, still echoing, still shaking what they thought was unshakable. Because you were never the problem, you were the precursor to truth. Still feel bad for walking away? Still questioning whether you should have stayed quiet? Don't. This was never about revenge. It was about alignment. And the clock has aligned now. It's ringing louder every day. Not just for them, but for everyone who played along, everyone who stayed silent, everyone who stood by and watched you bleed and said nothing. Their time is up too. So what now? You do what you were always meant to do. Watch the truth rise. Stay aligned, stay focused, stay grounded, because everything that tried to break you is about to break itself. Not because you pushed, but because time demanded it. The season of deception is ending, and there's no place for fake in what's coming next. So let the clock tick. Let them feel it. Let the countdown do what it was built to do, because when it hits zero, only the truth will be left standing. Number 8. They didn't just hurt you, they let darkness use them, and now the debt is due. Some people weren't just toxic, they were portals, tools, vessels, and what used them is now demanding payment. Chosen one, this isn't about petty drama. This isn't about people just not liking you or not vibing with your energy. This is spiritual war, and it's been that way from the beginning. You weren't just attacked randomly, you were targeted. Why? Because when light walks into a room, everything hiding in the dark goes on the defensive. And the people who came against you, who twisted your truth, betrayed your trust, and tried to break your spirit. Let's tell the truth. They weren't acting alone. They were tools, carriers, open doors for something darker. Yes, they laughed while stabbing you in the back. Yes, they smiled while planting seeds of confusion and chaos. But what you need to understand now, chosen one, is this. They made themselves available to the very forces that want you silent, that want you small, that want you doubting the power in your voice. And every time they lied, manipulated, or attacked, they weren't just being petty, they were channeling something. And now, the thing that used them is ready to collect. They thought deception was protection, that being the villain in secret would shield them in public, that covering their hands after throwing the stone would keep them safe. But that's the thing about being a tool of darkness. You might think you're in control, but you're just being used, and when your usefulness ends, so does your covering. You gave them grace. You tried to see the good. You convinced yourself maybe they're just wounded, maybe they're just projecting, maybe they didn't mean it. And sure, pain plays a role, but let's be real. Intent doesn't erase impact. At some point, their behavior stopped being about immaturity or ignorance and became a choice. They chose deception. They chose betrayal. They chose to let themselves be vessels for destruction. And you? You took the hit. You carried the wounds. You held in the scream while they kept playing innocent in front of everyone. You swallowed your fire just to maintain peace. But peace with darkness is a lie. And now, as everything starts unraveling around them, as consequences begin to claw their way back, you're seeing it for what it really was, a war on your purpose, using familiar faces as weapons. Let that sink in. They weren't just toxic, they were strategically placed to distract, delay, and drain you, because the moment you fully stepped into your light, their time would be up. And guess what? That time is now. You've felt it, haven't you? The shift, the reversal, the slow crumbling of the illusion, the way their lives are starting to fold in on themselves while yours is gaining clarity and power. That's not karma, it's universal balance. They aligned themselves with darkness, and when you align with darkness, you become responsible for what it does through you. It doesn't matter if they didn't know better. That ignorance was a doorway. And now that door is closing, with them still inside. Chosen one, stop mourning what's being removed. Stop trying to redeem what the universe is in the process of dismantling. Some people weren't meant to stay because their loyalty was never to you. It was to the force that fears you. You were sent to expose it. And exposure always comes with resistance. That resistance is the proof. The chaos they tried to unleash in your life, it wasn't just them being reckless, it was them being used. And now, it's payback time. Not yours, the universe's. This isn't revenge, this is realignment. When you're chosen, the attacks don't go unaccounted for. The tears you cried in silence were seen. The moments you nearly gave up were recorded. And everything that came against you, every hand that tried to snuff out your voice, dim your light, poison your path, it's being answered for. And don't be surprised when it gets loud, when their lives start falling apart, when their masks drop, when they start scrambling, explaining, begging, blaming. Don't fall for the performance, because you know what this really is. You've seen it behind their eyes, that empty, disconnected stare, that unprovoked rage, that sudden, eerie calm before betrayal. That wasn't just personality, it was possession, not in a Hollywood horror movie way, in a real, energetic, cosmic way. They were given over, and now the cost has come due. You didn't imagine it. You weren't too sensitive. You were being attacked by something wearing a human face. But now, the light is too strong. The game is over. And what used them is exposed. The deception has no more ground to stand on. The darkness has lost its puppet. And that fire coming down on them, that storm sweeping through their lives, that's the end of the contract. You're rising, you're healing, you're gaining clarity. But them, they're collapsing, not because you cursed them, but because they made an agreement with something that always eats its own. You were the target because you're the light, and the light always exposes what darkness tries to use. So now, let it fall. Let the fire take what was never built to last. Let the universe handle what your heart was never meant to carry, because the tools of darkness have run out of time, and now they face the hand they once served. And now, chosen one, as the dust settles and the truth stands tall, understand this: nothing that came against you will stand in the end. You were never the victim. You were the weapon forged in silence, now rising with clarity. Let this be your confirmation and your fuel. Your time isn't just coming, it's here. If this message struck your spirit, like the video, subscribe to stay aligned with the truth. Drop the number 77 in the comments to let the universe know you're awake, and share this with another chosen one who needs to remember: the shift has begun.